Hello everyone, and welcome back to another dream today. Hello. Come dream with me today, guys. It's Visual Novel Friday. It's my favorite day of the week. Welcome. Come on in, get comfortable, get insightful and thoughtful, because we're playing Rain Marginal, or Ame No Marginal. It's by the people that made Narcissu, which was a really thoughtful visual novel about life and death. Yeah, welcome everybody. Come on in. Yeah, get relaxed. We're playing Rain Marginal today. Yep. It's by the people that made Narcissu. I never remember Narcissu. That was a couple months ago. But anyways, yeah. Hello everybody. Let me introduce myself real quick. Hi, my name is Princess Evillan, and I'm a streamer here on Twitch. And I post almost everything I do here on the channel. It all ends up onto youtube.com/@princessevillanvods. EVILLAN is how you spell Evelyn, in case you didn't know. I have lots of videos on the VODs channel. If you're looking for a stream and maybe you missed a stream and you're like, oh man, I really wanted to watch that one, wait a couple weeks, it'll end up on the VODs channel. If you subscribe to the VODs channel, you can get notifications on when videos drop, which is every Saturday. The Halloween episodes are coming out tomorrow, so that week of Halloween is coming out tomorrow on the VODs channel, so you'll be able to see the Halloween special, which was really fun. I'm finishing up editing that right now. But yeah. And then if you're watching this on the VODs channel in the future, come join us on the Twitch channel. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for video games, and Wednesdays and Sundays for webcomics. I read webcomics with my husband, Gob the Goblin. My lovely husband, Gob the Goblin. We stream Homestuck on Sundays. Wednesday is kind of a variety day, where I think we're going to be reading Jailbreak next, so that's going to be interesting. And then we still have to finish Problem Sleuth, but we have to read Jailbreak first. So we're slowly progressing back through Andrew Hussey's work history. But yeah, anyways, today's Visual Novel Friday, which if you don't know is the day that we play a visual novel. Today's visual novel is Rain Marginal, or Ame No Marginal. I don't know very much about this game. The only thing I know is that it is a kind of more thoughtful, mature, it was like Narcissu, it's like Narcissu. Narcissu was a very thoughtful, mature visual novel about life and death and existence and the meaning of living and things like that. So I'm expecting similar themes from Rain Marginal. Anyways, let's jump into it, shall we? Rain Marginal. I don't know anything about it. Everything has an end. Prologue. Let's get started. Rain. Falling from a white sky, small drops of water, raindrops. The sky had, for all this time, never once cleared. The sun during the day, the moon at night, neither had ever shown their faces. Yesterday, a few days before, a few years before, it had always been rainy. And surely tomorrow, the day after, a year later, it will also be rainy. Something that would never stop. An endless rain. In the midst of that, I put my feet into the river like I always did. It wasn't particularly cold. The water only came up to my ankles or knees. So there was no chance of drowning. Even if you drowned, you wouldn't die from it. And this flow, there wasn't a place where it started, nor was there a shore downriver. In all directions, it was all horizons. It was a river with no end. My aim was far downriver. My destination was there. Before getting to that place would take many, many years. but now I could reach it in an instant. Soon I reached my destination. In the middle of the river, a large pit opened, making a roaring sound that swallowed the things that had wandered into this world. Most likely it was there to return things to the real world. I think this place was the exit from this world. I had no proof. Sadly, there was no way to find out, and I had long lost the will to try. However, only this place was. It was the only place in this world that connected to the outside world.
あの人、元気そうね。
That person, he seemed to be doing well. Visible faintly within the hole was the image of that person. It seems he had lost his memory of this place and had returned to his daily life without trouble. Even if he were to forget about me. To me, he was the only proof of my existence that I could leave in the real world, much better than leaving only tears. Just like the endless rain. Let this memory be my nourishment for eternity. Everything has an end. Monday, prologue. Burning sunlight and the voices of cicadas. Even though it was early morning, the sky after the end of the rainy season was almost tragically clear. Today was Monday. The time was 5:47 a.m. and 20 seconds. The beginning of the most depressing day of the week. I had long hated Mondays, and that remained unchanged even after becoming a working adult. That was why every Monday I went to the office earlier than anyone else, every week. Inside the swaying train car, as it started getting hot, I headed to the office on the first train of the day. Even though it was before 6, it was already seemed like it was going to be another midsummer day, going against my feelings. Getting off the train and walking along a typical station front street for 5 minutes, I soon could see a mixed-use building. When I arrived, I got in the elevator. The company I worked for was on the 4th floor. As the heavy door closes, I pushed the button for my destination. I pressed the button for the 7th floor. My destination wasn't the 4th floor of my workplace, but the highest floor. Ding! A strong wind blew on the bare rooftop. The morning air was a bit chilling. On the other side of the high precautionary fence was a perfectly clear summer sky from the end of the rainy season. Despite it being early morning, I was soaked in sweat. Well, shall we go? Saying that to myself, I started walking towards the edge of the roof. That's right, no matter how much you ran, jumped, or rolled here, you would never fall from the roof. You could call it a safe zone. The fence that prevented falling, prevented suicide, devoted itself to defending against that. Saying, I won't let you die. However, as if defying that fence's service, I put my hands on that metal wire and climbed. I finished climbing the fence, accompanied by its rattling sound, and I put my feet on the mere 30 centimeters worth of space on the other side. Obviously, this meant there was nothing in my way. At this point, I was no longer within the safe zone. Forget about running. If I so much as lost my balance slightly, I could easily fall to the ground. If I jumped from here, I'd I'd definitely die. Falling from the 7th floor, it was only natural to die. Anyone who could survive that could only be counted as lucky. Sadly, my luck was only that of an average person. So, well, it was almost certain I'd die. Just one more step, simply stepping forward. With just that, everything would end. The job I hated, the depressing Monday, I'd be free of them. But I couldn't do it. The reason being, it wasn't as if I wanted to die. Then I should turn right around and return to the safety within the fence, right? But there too was hesitation. Because even though I did not want to die, I also did not want to live. It'd be wrong to say they were the same. To want to die and to not want to live? They were not the same. Similar, but not equal. Even if I were tired of living, I hadn't yet lived long enough to want to die. It was simply that there were mostly painful things, sad things, and living had been stained with distaste. While I was a student, things were still fine. But even if there were bad things or painful things, I could see what the cause was. No matter how much it bothered me, if I knew the cause, then I just had to overcome it. Even if I couldn't overcome it, there was hope. Maybe someday I could even look forward. But now that I was an adult, things were different. There weren't clear causes or reasons. There were too many things where no one or nothing was at fault. I learned that this world, that reality, was full of things that can't be helped. Those small pains would, like body blows in boxing, slowly, steadily build up. I guess it's enough. With a slight exhale, I once again started climbing the fence. I looked at my watch. It was 6:50 a.m., around the time that people would start coming. Without wanting to die but climbing the fence like this, an observer would probably think that it was a meaningless act. However, to me, there was a little bit of meaning. To put it into words, it was insurance for the heart. If I came here wanting to die, I could do it any time. In a way to reconfirm that, in a way to maintain my heart's peace. It was a ritual to let out the damage accumulated from the numerous body blows during the day, before I was KO'd. Done on the dreariest day, Monday. Using every trick I knew, this is how I managed to keep on living. By staring death in the face. More than likely, I keep on living like this for a long time. One day, someone will do something about it. And if they can't, then they can kill me right now. I knew that this kind of thinking was a sweet illusion that only kids are allowed to have, but even so, I somehow found myself being passive. As I became an adult, the real world became more and more hollow. As I gained EXP points, becoming used to things and numbness killed the freshness and strong emotions. Originally, time was supposed to be fair to all, but it was getting thinner. I'm not really sure myself. Whether this was a wish or a complaint, a prayer or a curse, I wasn't even sure who these words were directed to. There was just one thing that was clear. As you can see, I'm a fool. Interesting. Okay, so we have a branch and path. We have the elevator and then we have Rin. So let's do the elevator first. We'll start from the top. Tuesday, day 1. The next day, while rubbing my sleepy eyes, I headed to the office. Inside the train, there was just a fan that stirred around the warm air. With every station, sweat on my back would stick to my dress shirt. Oh well. While holding onto a swing handle, I reflexively loosened my necktie. The sun was burning hot today too. From the heat in the morning, it looked to be the most summery day of the year. All day today, I was supposed to be going around making sales. With another sigh, I headed to the office. No matter how depressing it was, there was no other alternative if it was work. The building's elevator lobby. I waited there for a while. It was around business opening time, so a fair number of people were around. Even if it meant missing one elevator, I wanted to get on one alone. Because at the start of the day, being trapped with a manager or coworker and forced to put on a polite smile was tiring. While thinking about that, I waited for the elevator.
なるほどね。
I see. There was a young woman I didn't recognize. For some reason, she was peering intently at my face.
悪くないか。優しいとこあるみたいだし。
I wonder if this is the same voice actress. Well, not bad. And seems to have a nice side, too. While saying that to herself, she quickly went off someplace. Maybe she mistook me for someone. Or maybe she'd been talking to someone on a cell phone. Well, whatever, I should hurry up. Wasting time like this, I didn't want to meet any coworkers this early. In moments, the elevator arrived. I got on one alone and looked at the panel of buttons. Of course, today I wasn't headed to the 7th floor. As if perfectly naturally, I reached for the 4th floor button. There, I noticed something strange. Huh? 8th floor? There was a button for a floor I'd never seen before. This building only had 7 floors, so there shouldn't be a button for an 8th. I'd written this numerous times, so there's no mistake. Plus, I had gone to the highest 7th floor every Monday, so I knew that a higher floor didn't exist. Maybe I made a mistake and came to the wrong building? That was also impossible. The thought flashed through my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. If anything, the inside of the elevator was very familiar. Since graduating and joining this company, I had used it for 3 years. There was no way I could be mistaken. And even if they were constructing an 8th floor, I'd just been to the roof yesterday. They couldn't have done such a thing in just one day. Then just what did this mean? Even while thinking that this was an odd tale, I slowly pressed the button for the 8th floor. As the elevator rose, I had a number of thoughts. Maybe this is some kind of prank. I couldn't see the reasoning behind it, but if it were true, it was a pretty involved prank. But then, if it weren't true, somewhere in my heart, I felt anticipation for something. Ding! Rain? The first thing I could hear was the sound of rain. The first thing I could see was just whiteness. More importantly, just where was this? I thought for a moment I was on the roof, but that was impossible. Just before I had been under a blazing summer sky. All I could see were white sky and flagstones, and thanks to the haze from the rain, I couldn't see very far. Are we still in an elevator? Even though I had just gotten on the elevator to my office. Wait, the elevator is... I realized there. I turned around. The elevator I just exited had disappeared. Interesting. Reflexively, I looked around the area, but the same scene spread before me everywhere. Even when I strained my eyes, peering beyond the rain haze, all I could see was a faint white horizon. I have no idea. Already, this was beyond the realm of my comprehension. No, not just me personally. Anyone in this situation would be the same. Yeah, I was gonna say. I tried to think as calmly as I could, as realistically and objectively as possible. There were only two things I could think of. This is a dream. But it felt too real to be a dream. The scene in front of me, the feel of the rain on my skin. Then perhaps this is the afterlife? But even assuming this was the afterlife, I had absolutely no memory of when I died. But maybe that was just how it worked. I had certainly stepped into the elevator, so maybe there was a chance I had an accident there. Maybe this was how it feels to die before you realized it. But, well, I don't really mind that. Even assuming this was the afterlife, that's how I felt. It wasn't as if I wanted to die, but living had also been painful. Delivering me from that, please, or if you couldn't, then kill me now. That was something I'd kept saying to myself every Monday. Looking up, I saw that pure white sky. It was unchanging, giving no indication that it would ever stop. It wasn't a downpour so much as a drizzle, but being in it constantly soaked me. At the least, let's go find a place to get out of the rain. I still had no idea where this was, but there was no point in staying still. Taking off my tightly tied necktie, I began to walk into the rainy haze. So for a while, exactly how long, I didn't know, I continued to walk around the area. However, the same scenery just continued on without any change. Everywhere I went, the old flagstones continued. I couldn't see anything that resembled a structure. And, of course, no signs of people. No, not just people. There weren't any signs of living, moving things at all. When I casually looked at my watch, it stopped. For some reason, my watch had stopped. The hands continued to denote that it was still 6:40 a.m. That was the time I got onto that elevator. I checked when I first got on, so there was no mistaking it. And this also. Just what did it mean? While thinking that, I walked forward. It didn't seem like I would come up with an answer, and standing around wouldn't help. Even though I was getting soaked in the rain, it wasn't particularly cold, but to be constantly rained on was more of a psychological strain than I imagined. ... Eventually, after walking for a while, it was so far I couldn't tell clearly, but I could see something through the rain haze. At least, from the time I'd started walking up till now, it was the first time I'd seen something that could be called a structure. Well, let's head over there then. There might be some kind of hint there, or maybe even someone else. Just as I was thinking that was the time.
こんにちは。
Hello? Oh, you're adorable. Being spoken to all of a sudden, I spun around to find an unfamiliar little girl. She was facing me, looking a little embarrassed. Who are you?
私はリンって呼んでくださいね。
I'm Rin. Please call me Rin. Cheerfully, Rin, or whatever, bowed her head. She seemed quite young, around elementary school age, perhaps. She didn't seem all that surprised to see me. In fact, she seemed like a child, but she was somehow extremely calm. It felt like she was used to this mysterious place. But I couldn't help but wonder why she was wearing just one shoe with her other foot left bare. Her appearance was such a disconnect from this place that made things feel even more unsettling.
おそらくですけど、ここ来たばかりですよね。
Oh, I'm just guessing, but you just arrived, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. Hold on, more importantly, what is this place?
それを説明するのはちょっと長くなるかな。
Explaining that would take a while. Take a while? Explain.
とりあえずは雨に濡れるからこっち来てください。
For now, since we'll get wet, please come here. Hey! As if she didn't hear my voice, she ran off while making splashing sounds. I have no idea what she was. I stared at her back, wondering if I should be going with her. While at the same time...
ねえ、早く来ないと濡れちゃいますよ。
Hey, if you don't hurry, you're gonna get soaked. Turning around, the girl, no, I believe she said Rin, energetically called to me. I didn't really feel any evil intent from her, even if there were lots of unanswered questions and doubts. Nothing could be done just standing here. Coming to that decision, I followed after her. I walked behind her until we arrived in front of a large building. The train station. Apparently, I'd seen it from quite a distance. There were a number of stone columns, and in the middle was a thing that looked like a bench. Despite there having been no man-made things or anything other than the aged flagstones up until now, to see fragments of modern civilization in just this spot was also very odd.
冷たかった。
That was cold. Brushing off the rain clinging to her, she stood next to the old bench and bus stop signs. Apparently, only this place had bits of civilization and some small traces of someone living here.
忘れてた。洗濯物干しっぱなしだったんだ。
Ah, I forgot! I left the laundry out to dry. Saying that, she hurriedly went to grab the laundry-like clothing. There was a rope skillfully strung between two bus stop signs. Apparently, she'd been drying clothes there.
私からなんでこんな時に限って下着まで干してたんだろう。
Dear me, why is it only in a time like this that I have to hang out my underwear? She blushed heavily at the uncharacteristically flashy underwear, and looking closer, there seemed to be things resembling books of manga beyond her. Why did this one spot have pieces of modern life? I couldn't even imagine the reason. However, there was something that held my attention even more. I thought there might be a chance for other people walking around. Hey, could it be that you're alone? Huh?
はい。たまに来るけど、基本的に私一人だけです。
Hmm? Yeah. Once in a while, someone comes through, but basically it's just me.
ちなみに雨に濡れない場所、つまり屋根がある場所もここだけなんですよ。
And also, the only place you don't get wet from the rain, that is, the only place with a roof, is here. I see. Most likely it wasn't a lie, but the honest truth. I couldn't think of how lying to me would benefit her, and the girl in front of me didn't seem to be that kind of person. Plus, before coming here, I'd walked around on my own and couldn't see anything resembling a building or traces of people. That meant the only ones were here were the girl and myself? And just what was this place? I thought it was a dream at first, but decided against that. It all felt too real. A place I had never seen before, with an unfamiliar girl now appearing before me. It was too much to be a dream. Then that left just one answer. Then, is it the world you go to after you die?
死後の世界？つまりあの世ってことですか？
The world after you die? You mean the afterlife? Yeah, even I think it's a bit unrealistic, but I can't think of anything else. Oh, that's what I said. I think it's a bit unrealistic, but I can't think of anything else. Even if this is where you go when you die, I have no memory whatsoever of dying. But that might just be how that worked. I suppose from what was going on before I came here, I probably died in an elevator accident. I don't really want to imagine what my real body looks like now. Flattened from falling a long distance, or torn to pieces. As I dazedly pondered that, the girl slowly opened her mouth.
よくわからないけど、多分違うと思います。
I don't really know, but I don't think so. No? Then is this the real world?
それもまた違うというか。
That's a bit off too.
で、ちょうどいいものを持ってますね。
Oh, you've got just the right thing for this. Saying that, she pointed at my wristwatch. For some reason, it had been stopped all this time.
その腕時計、止まったままですよね。
Your watch is stopped, right? Yeah, what about it?
つまり、そういうことなんです。
Essentially, that's what it is. Huh?
ここはですね、時の止まった場所なんです。
This place, you see, is a place where time has stopped. Time has stopped?
はい、ここは完全に現実世界とは違う場所で、時間も止まったままなんです。
Yes, this place is completely different from the real world, a place where time stands still. I don't get it. More like I understand what the words themselves mean, but not their content. Me neither.
具体的に言うとですね、ここではお腹も減らないし、年を取ることもないんです。
Ah, to put it concretely, here you don't get hungry and you don't age. And you can't even die? Yes, that's right. It's like a sci-fi novel or a fable.
気持ちはわかりますけど、これが現実です。
Yes, I can understand feeling that way, but this is real. Even hearing that, I can't exactly just go, oh, okay. But at the same time, I couldn't deny everything, even if I think it's all unscientific. If nothing else, the scene spread in front of me, the things surrounding how I came here, were all real. If I were to believe this girl's words, then this place is like a room for a soul and time. So like in Dragon Ball. What? A separate dimension where one day became 1 year. But wait, you went to that one willingly, so it's different, right? I had just arrived here before I knew it. That's not true. We went to it willingly. Then this is like the Myoga, a place that appears to lost travelers. And you hear, sorry Rin, you're like the master?
別に私、妖怪とかじゃないですよ。
It's not like I'm some kind of spirit or monster, you know. Oh, no, I meant that as an example. I still didn't understand the conditions or how I managed to come in. But essentially, this place seemed to be another dimension, separate from the real world.
それに、元の世界に帰りたいならいつでも帰れますよ。
Also, if you want to go back to the real world, you can go back at any time. Huh? I can go back? Anytime? That was unexpected. I didn't think that's how stuff like this worked. Like, once you enter, you can never leave, or at least it would be really difficult to. And yet, the girl before me was saying how easy it was to go back.
じゃあ、ちょっと行ってみますか？
So why don't we go and see for a bit? Hey, wait! Before I could speak, she quickly jumped outside. She'd been like that earlier, lively, you might say, or at least unable to sit still. Oh well, let's go take a look. Unchanging, the rain continued to fall. Falling from the white sky, it formed little drops and struck my body. Under that sky, I followed behind the girl. Splashing sounds of water rose up from the wet ground. It was like a drizzle, so you didn't get drenched, but you would get a bit wet. However, it wasn't cold or chilling, it was simply wet. I thought it was around here. What's wrong? You've been peering around for a while.
はい、だいたいいつもこの辺りに現れるはずなんです。
Yes, it's usually supposed to appear around here. Appear? What will?
もちろん現実世界への出入り口ですよ。
Why, the entryway to the real world, of course. Entryway? She never failed to say things that were incomprehensible. While thinking that and walking around a bit.
ほら、見えました。
Look, you can see it. Oh. Turn the game. At this distance, even I could see what she was talking about. Beyond the rainy mist, there was a small box-like structure. Could that be an elevator? Though for some reason, the exterior had become an aged stone structure. On closer examination, I saw markings of what appeared to be elevator parts in various places. You could almost believe that it had grown suddenly out of a rooftop.
よくわかりませんけど、ここから入ってきたんですよね。
I don't really understand it, but you came in from this, right? Yeah, that's right.
では帰る時もここからだと思いますよ。
Then you'd go back through it too. I see. That makes a certain kind of sense. It was certainly more natural than suddenly appearing out of empty space or disappearing like smoke.
でも最近はこういう出入り口になってるんですね。
But I see that recently the entryways become this sort of thing now. Recently? Then it was different normally?
はい、今までは襖やドアが多かったかな。
Yes, up until now they were mostly siding screens or doors.
今回のは変わっててちょっと面白いかも。
This time's different and a bit fun. Saying that, Rin smiled happily. Looking at her young features in that smile, I felt that she was honest and a good child. But from what she had said, there was a number of things that nagged at me. I probably was mistaken, but... So you don't know what an elevator is?
もう知ってますよ。上に行ったり下に行ったりする乗り物ですよね。
Oh, I know. It's a thing you ride to go up and down, right? She stood up a bit straighter when she said this. Well, she described it a bit oddly, but she was correct.
それでどうされます？帰りますか？
So what will you do? Go back? I hesitated just a bit. It was true that I was dissatisfied with the real world. When I first came here, I thought I died and figured there wasn't much I could do if I was dead. But if there was a choice, it was also odd to be asked if I wanted to reject that and stay here. Say, Rin, one question.
はいはい。
Yes? If I go back, would I be able to return here?
いえ、それは無理みたいです。
No, it's apparently impossible. Well, that was natural. If that were true, this place would probably be full of people. Isn't there some kind of time limit? If I go past that, I can't go back?
確か3日間くらいは大丈夫だったと思いますよ。
I think for about 3 days it's fine. 3 days, and there's no rush to go back? Staying here forever might turn out to be painful. How do you quantify days when there's no time? Yeah, compared to the real world, it wasn't necessarily worse either. Then, for now, I'll leave off going back. At least you don't have to eat. And you don't age. But there's not much to do.
本当ですか？嬉しいな。
Really? Wow, that makes me happy.
ほら、ここってめったに人が来ないから一人で寂しかったんですよ。
See, not many people come here, so it was lonely being here on my own. She faced me cheerfully and said that. Well, it's only natural to feel lonely when you're all alone in a place like
じゃ
this.
あ、さっきの場所に戻りましょうか。
So, shall we go back to the place from earlier? Yeah, we'll get wet if we just keep standing here after all.
それに、そろそろ日が暮れ始めますから。
And it's
急
going
ぎ
to
ま
be
しょう。
dark soon, so let's hurry. It gets dark, but isn't time stopped? That's what I'm saying.
よくわかりませんけ
So
ど、
there is time.
夜はあるんですよ。
It's just not the same time. It has its own set of time. Yes, I don't really know why, but there's night. With that, Rin started walking quickly. As I watched her, I recalled something that had been nagging at me before. From what she had explained, time was stopped in this place. You don't get old or hungry or die. Also, she said people rarely came here, and she felt lonely being here on her own. Then she can't have been here since a long time ago, can she? That flashed through my mind suddenly, but I quickly quashed it. At the least, she knew what an elevator was. Her clothing was a bit strange, but it was obviously modern. Oh well, there's still time. There were a bunch of things that were hazy, but they'd probably become clearer eventually. Time passed. We returned to the place from before, and I had asked her a number of questions, but...
よくわからないですね。
I don't really know. Or...
まあ、多分そうなんだと思いますよ。
Yeah, I think that's probably right. It was like that all the time. I didn't feel like I heard anything solid. How long had this place existed? For whom? For what purpose? To begin with, just what was this place? A bit more personally, why did I come here? Asked a mountain of these natural questions, but she herself didn't make any firm answers. At the same time, she didn't seem to be lying or hiding anything. Apparently, she herself didn't really understand. Oh yeah. Earlier, didn't you say night was coming?
間もなくですよ。
Yes, any moment now. Despite that, I don't see any changes. The sky above us remained pure white, still pouring down rain. You couldn't even tell whether it was morning or afternoon.
ですね。なぜかここは昼と夜しかないんです。
Well, you see, for some reason, this place only has day and night. Day and night? Then there's no morning or evening?
ですから急に真っ暗になるから気をつけないと危ないんですよ。
Yes, so it suddenly gets dark, and if you're not careful, it's dangerous. Then she continued to explain. Around here, it seems there really is nothing. Obviously, there are no man-made lights, but you also can't see the stars or the moon. So at night, it becomes pitch black, and if you go too far from this place, it's apparently dangerous. I see. Certainly walking around in pitch black is dangerous.
そんなわけで夜が来る前に寝ちゃうのが一番。
That's why sleeping before night comes is best.
そうだ、寝る場所ここしかないんだった。
Oh wait, there's no place to sleep here. Saying that, she pointed at the bench we had been sitting on. Now that she mentioned it, there wasn't anything else usable in sight.
少し狭くて申し訳ないですけど。
I'm sorry that it's a bit narrow. Oh, don't worry about me. I'll just lie down and sleep around here.
いえ、私キューって体丸めてちっちゃくなって寝ますから。なんとか二人でも多分。
No, I'll curl up really tight and sleep really small. Somehow two people can... maybe? No way. No matter how you looked at it, the bench was just for one person.
それに床は痛いし冷たいですよ。
And the floor hurts, and it's cold. I'm fine. It's not that I don't get wet from the rain. Since she was here first and I came later, looking at it that way, I could be called a freeloader. Moreover, from what I'd heard earlier, you don't get hungry here, nor sick, and apparently don't die. So from that, I had a feeling it wasn't physically possible to be injured, or if you did get hurt, it would quickly heal. Then there's nothing to worry about sleeping on the floor. And even if there's no other choice, sleeping on a bench sounds like some homeless guy. Oh, like some homeless guy? Wait, bench? Hey, this place is really strange.
ですからここは時が止まっている場所ですし。
Like I said, time has stopped in this place. No, I didn't mean that. Why is it that this place has benches and bus stops? Exactly. Everything else was just aged stonework. They were too out of place.
それはですね、たまに私が。
Well, about that, sometimes I... What's wrong?
夜が来ます。
Night is coming. With those words, in a flash, the sky turned dark. What had been pure white was being painted black. It was like watching one of those time-lapse videos.
では続きはまた明日に。おやすみなさい。
Well, we'll continue tomorrow. Good night. Well, wait, hold on.
それとベンチどうもすみません。
And I'm so sorry about the bench. Saying just that, she lay down on the bench. And as I was about to say my next sentence, oh, she fell asleep. She's already asleep. That's a bit quick, even for a person who sleeps easily. While thinking that, I lay down helplessly next to the bench. And while feeling the cold hard stone on my back, I quietly closed my eyes. Interesting. Alright, Rin. Prologue Rin.
あれからどれだけの時間が経っただろうか。
Just how much time has passed since then?
もう今ではしっかりと思い出せなくなってしまった。
By now, I've become unable to clearly recall. No. We were raised in a house of priestesses, a branch of noble house that sends unmarried daughters to the shrine. Of course, noble didn't mean the royal shrines like Ise no Kami or Ise. It was a local shrine under a small, unknown priest. From before I can remember, my older sister and I were adopted and were raised as priestesses in training. So I didn't know any details. I didn't know my birthday, nor who my real parents were. It was also a mystery when and for what purpose we were sent to the shrine to be raised as priestesses. But we didn't think about those questions. We were never worried and never felt any dissatisfaction about it. It was a world where unless you struggled to live, you died. In that kind of world, we didn't starve nor freeze and were able to safely live our lives without a end. Plus, in my case, I had a kind older sister.
ねえお姉ちゃん、今日は月が出てるよ。
The moon's out today, sis. In a season of long rains, it was a clear, rare clear night. In a break between those damp clouds, the big face of the moon peeked out.
やだな。この梅雨が終わったらまた暑くなってくるね。
Ugh. When the rainy season ends, it's gonna get hot again, isn't it? Without thinking, the words tumbled from my lips. At those words, my sister shook her head and busily moved both her hands. It's summer, so there's no helping it? Mm-hmm. And once again nodding, she moved her hands while moving her mouth.
そうだね。暑いのは嫌だけど、夏祭りとかあるもんね。
Ah, that's true. The heat is no fun, but there are summer festivals. Nodding, she happily patted me on the head. Yes, it'll be fun, won't it? That's what I think she said. Even if her voice didn't make a sound, I could read her lips. I could understand from her expression. Even if no one else could understand, as her sister, I alone could. A sister older than me by 10 years. The only relative I had, someone very dear to me. Always gentle and cheerful, even the small part of her that was absent-minded and charming. At all times, she had on a peaceful smile that never broke. However, she wouldn't speak. Not that she couldn't, she wouldn't. Of course, in the beginning, I thought that my sister was unable to speak. Like how the blind have eyes that couldn't see, I thought that she was unable to form a voice. However, just recently I had been taught that was incorrect. For 333 years, 3 months, and 3 days, you cannot speak aloud. That was what I was told. My sister was, as the priestess, bearing that task. Apparently, the shrine made some prayer that created a debt that had been over 100 years earlier. Obviously, the one they created the debt with was a god, I imagine. I didn't know the details, but I was taught that in order to repay the debt, a kind of atonement was required. I had thought that priestesses were just stand-ins for gods, but I learned that they could also be burdened with the role of being sacrifices. And I could understand the reasoning, but wasn't satisfied. No matter how you looked at it, 333 years was too long. Obviously, it wasn't something a single person's life could cover. Even if my sister spent her entire life, it wouldn't be enough years. Even a child like myself could see that. And that wasn't the end of the requirements. The congee for meals was set to be once every day, as the cleansed medium uttering earthly words were forbidden. In the name of purification, cold water ablutions were performed every day, all year without rest, even during the winter snows. Just what kind of debt was this exactly? I didn't know, and I also didn't care. It was a debt that we never really recalled making. Thinking about it now was a pretty idiotic thing. However, it was all perfectly natural for that time. Just questioning them itself was punished. And I was taught that my sister existed solely for that reason. 1 month later, the moon floated in the sky. From between a break in the rainy season's clouds, its large face peered through. That night, my sister was gazing at the moon with a somewhat happy expression. It looked almost as if she had accepted her own fate. That was just so sad. The words just came from my mouth without thought.
ねえお姉ちゃん、逃げようか。
Hey sis, why don't we run away? The words were half a joke, but also half for real.
だってここにいたんじゃお姉ちゃんが。ね、だから二人でどこか遠くに行こうよ。
Because if we stay here, you're... right? So let's go somewhere far away together. Even at my words, she just cast her eyes down a tiny bit, and soon, with her usual cheerful face, she shook her head.
ここが気に入ってるからどこにも行きたくないって。
Eh? You like it here, so you don't want to go anywhere? Nod.
それよりも早く寝ましょうって。って引っ張らないでよ。
And anyway, let's go to sleep now? Wait, don't hold my hand. Walking ahead of me, my sister happily returned to the room, and then simply laying down on the floor, she quickly fell asleep. It was almost amazing how quickly she fell asleep. But in contrast to that charming sleeping figure, my eyes were pulled to the white silk cloth wrapped around her mouth. To make sure that she wouldn't speak while sleeping, she could, of her own free will, and completely naturally do that to herself. But she would, of her own will, and completely naturally do that to herself. Watching that was just impossibly painful. That act, I can understand it now. I'm sure that my sister must have felt some kind of duty or responsibility as a priestess, and as someone who was wed to God, there was probably those who believed in her. But in equal amounts, there was also concern for me. Originally, we had come to be adopted by the shrine without any support. If the two of us were to flee, it was obvious that we would have gotten lost. With a child like myself in tow, it would have been all the more difficult. Burning sunlight and the cries of cicadas, a scene you could see everywhere in the summer. The noisy cicadas were erasing all sounds. Perhaps, maybe now. When that occurred to me, I spoke to my sister.
ねえお姉ちゃん、今だったら喋っても大丈夫だよ。
Hey sis.
きっと誰にも気づかれないから。
Right now, you could speak, you know. I'm sure no one would notice. In the middle of the chorus of cicadas, my sister looked at me without moving. I moved my mouth closer to my sister's face. Like this, if you speak softly, no one should be able to hear. Just once I wanted to hear my sister's voice. Since before I could remember, I'd always been with her, but I never knew what kind of voice she had. I was sure that it would be a cheerful, keep voice. Just like her demeanor, gentle and soft, nothing like my low, unrefined way of speaking.
ほら、今なら誰もいないから大丈夫だって。
Right now, no one is around. It'll be fine. Even if I continued pushing, my sister remained silent. Finally, with her eyes downcast, she shook her head and moved her mouth.
誰もいないことはないって。
There's never a time when no one is around? Nod. With a small nod, she pointed to the red torii arches on the grounds. Then her hand waved no in front of her face. Essentially, she was saying God was watching. From the beginning to the end, my sister was always like that. Every day, thinking that she'd be hungry, eating no more than a tiny bit of porridge, I would secretly offer her food, but she never once accepted. And she wasn't just strict with herself, she'd often correct my way of speaking.
ねえお姉ちゃん、あの塔だけど。
Hey sis, about that tower. Smack.
あいた。ごめんなさい。荒らぎだけど。
Ow! I'm sorry. About the yew tree. As I was carelessly about to speak a taboo, she quickly hit my hand. Even though my sister only rarely got angry, she would strictly correct me about impure or taboo things. Unlike my young self, who didn't really understand anything, my sister probably was a very fervent believer of Shinto. For example, even if she were the sacrifice for atonement, I believe my sister was undoubtedly also a priestess in service to God. At every time, every place, whatever you did, God was always watching from nearby. That was probably what my sister thought, or perhaps what she wanted to believe. The following year, late autumn, when the red-stained leaves of the trees began to fall and when a cold wind was beginning to blow, around when I was going to turn 10, unlike myself, who had grown up without any real major illnesses, whenever it came to be this time of year, my sister would lie down on the floor more often. Of course, saying that she lay on the floor didn't mean it happened suddenly one day. At first, she was only down once a month, then it became 3 days, then 5, and before I knew it, she spent almost half a month lying down. And in the middle of that, while making a strained face, my sister would get up early from bed. Her destination was the well in the rear grounds. It was for the daily task of purification, the cold water ablution.
大丈夫、お姉ちゃん。
Are you okay, sis? When I would run over to her saying that, she would tell me not to worry by gesturing with her body and hands. While wearing her usual gentle smile, she still never once spoke. The late autumn morning air already felt cold to the skin, and steam was rising from her body, just bathed in cold water. Her breath was also brilliant white, her body numb from the cold and shivering slightly. And she'd already been sick without all this. But if you thought about it, it wasn't a surprise. Without being given proper meals and living this way for many years, anyone's body would break. Even if it weren't my sister, they would clearly be succumbing to sickness. And with that figure before me, I again wound up asking the question I've asked countless
ねえ
times.
お姉ちゃん、ここから逃げようか。
Sis, why don't we run away from here?
だってこのままじゃいつかお姉ちゃん死んじゃうよ。
At this rate, someday you're going to die. There wasn't any particular response. Of course, I wasn't expecting that she would use her voice to reply. But she neither nodded her head up or down nor shook it from side to say no. She just, while looking downward, shivered in the cold. I'm sure that my sister herself really knew that if she continued living like this, sooner or later she would break down from the sickness. Even if whoop. Backlog. Let's see. That if she continued living like this, sooner or later she would break down from sickness. Even if she were to become healthy now, without a doubt it would happen sometime in the future.
だって例の職は333年なんだよね。それって一生って意味だよ。
Because that atonement is supposed to be for 333 years, right? That means your whole life. Indeed, from the start it had been forced to be much longer than a single human life. Even if my sister were to keep that contract until she died, she would never fulfill it. A child like me can understand that, and yet it was impossible for my more intelligent sister to grasp.
ね、だから一緒に逃げようよ。
So, let's run away together.
ひもじい思いをしてもこんなところにいるよりはずっといいって。
Even if we face hunger, it has to be much better than being here. But at my words, she shook her head slightly and pointed at the Tory. Just like she had previously done, she was indicating that God was watching.
もうお姉ちゃんたら神様だって見てないよ。
Oh, sis, even God isn't looking.
第一、神様なんて本当にいるかどうかも怪しいのに。
For one thing, it's even a bit suspicious whether he really exists. That was how I really felt. As someone who was in service to God, I might be a failure, but I've never seen him nor heard his voice. To me, his existence only served to torment my sister.
だからお姉ちゃん大丈夫だって。誰にも見つからないうちに早くここから逃げよう。
So, it'll be fine, sis. While no one's looking, let's run away from here. Crack. A dry sound reverberated, right as I spoke. Of course, the sound was my cheek being slapped, and none other than my sister did the slapping.
お姉ちゃん。
Sis! There was no pain. More than anything, there was surprise. My usually very kind and calm sister was, for the first time ever, showing me a very strict face. She wasn't angry that I suggested we run away. It was because I had questioned the existence of the gods. I'm sure that my sister believed in them from the bottom of her heart, as a priestess in service to God, as well as one who took on the duties of such. And if one were to deny that, then it would be denying one's own reason for existing. That's why I think my sister believed. No. Wanted to believe. Next month. Around when the leaves on the trees fell and in exchange white fell from the sky. As always, the days my sister spent lying down continued. Before, she'd been lying down for half the month, but as if in sync with the coming of winter, she now seemed to be lying down all the time. Immediately after finishing the morning cold water ablution, she would almost collapse to the floor and just sleep. Then one day, a young footman I was friends with secretly told me my sister probably couldn't be saved. He also added that she probably would not even make it to spring. We were 10 years apart, so she would only have just turned 20. But it seemed that my sister was going to die. I was very sad when I heard this, but I wasn't very surprised. I'm sure that, somewhere in my heart, I had calmly accepted that the time had come. I knew that if she continued to live like this, sooner or later it would happen. But if sis were to die, then what happened to me? Even though, since as far back as I can remember, I was brought up to be a priestess just like her, for some reason I had never once been taught anything about things like rituals. Since I was only 10, maybe it was something I would be taught in the future. But right now, other than being my sister's younger sister, I was of no value. Then, one day, I was called to the main shrine. Not with my sister, alone.
失礼します、宮司様。
Please excuse me, head priest. Lowering my head exaggeratedly deep, I bowed to the person sitting in the center. He was the head priest, the highest ranking person of the shrine, and someone I almost never met. Up until now, I had only met him while hiding behind my sister's back, so I was extremely nervous. By the way, how is it doing? It doesn't seem to be faring well.
はい。
Yes. I'd raised my head but kept my eyes lowered while answering. The it that the head priest spoke of was my sister, and by the way, he would only refer to me as girl. In terms of standing, we were considered priestesses, so we had never been treated rudely. But even so, we weren't treated properly as humans. You know of this girl? It seems it can't be saved. Yes, I've heard such from the priests. As expected, it didn't last long either. Either? I remember that word catching me. The words indicating that more than one, not your sister, but your sister also. Before I could think about what that meant, the head priest continued to speak. That is why, while there is time, I ordered that you will take over. Take over? Yes, when it dies, you as a sister will take over the duty. At first, I couldn't understand what the head priest was saying. Take over the duty? Me? But then I soon realized he was saying that I too will have my words sealed away, live in one bowl of porridge a day, chill my body, as a 333-year sacrifice for atonement. Hey, what is that surprised face? Eh? With just one human, there is no way to atone for 300 years. You mean, for this purpose I was... Of course, using many people like this is the only way to deal with it. He answered without hesitation. There isn't one hint of change in his voice or expression. It was as if he blandly explained something extremely obvious. And indirectly, he told me that I was a spare replacement for my sister. And by the way, your sister was the third. You will be the fourth. With you, we can get the remaining number of years down quite a bit. The remaining number of years is... Your sister only lasted about 15 years, but there are about 200 years left. With that, the head priest's expression softened just the tiniest bit. It was the first time I'd seen that sort of expression on his face since I'd come here. To be honest, there was not much change being told that 200 years remained. At the least, if it were impossible even using my entire life, then it was all the same to me. In any case, once it dies, you, girl, will take over. Understood? Hey, where is your answer? But, head priest... I don't want to hear your whining. I asked if you understood. I silently gave a small nod. Honestly, I didn't know what to say. Even if I didn't want to, I understood enough to know it wasn't going to be allowed. And yet, looking at me silently nodding. Good. Like just now, you should be practicing not making a sound. Understood? When once again I silently nodded at those words, the head priest wore a satisfied smile. When I left the main shrine, I was thinking many things. I just couldn't bring all my thoughts together. The head priest's words were probably correct. Even I didn't think that 333 years could be covered by a single person. If they weren't a supernatural being or a holy man, it was natural that a person could only live about 100 years. Oh my god. Can't even live 100 years. But I hadn't thought of wearing it down with the number of priestesses like this. To go that far, just what could have been this debt to God? To be honest, I couldn't imagine it, nor was I interested. All I understood was, if my sister dies, then I'd be the one who would take up being the sacrifice of atonement for the remaining 200 years. Obviously, even if I spent my entire life, it wouldn't be enough. By chance, I looked up. The sky was gray as lead. It was such a striking sight. That winter's icy sky seemed to be filled with gray as far as you could see. At night, my sister was lying down with a silk cloth wrapped around her mouth. As always, she continued with this, her way to keep from accidentally making a sound while coughing. Facing her like that, I told her about today's events, that her sickness probably couldn't be cured, that I was her spare, and how I would be taking it up after her. Sis, it looks like I'm also going to be unable to speak. And they said that there are still 200 years left. She mostly listened to my words without any particular reply. She especially didn't show any surprise or dismay. These were all things my much smarter sister had probably guessed. My sister probably couldn't be saved, and it had been decided that I would follow after her. The exhausted figure of my sister would be mine a few years later. Sis, I'll ask just one last time. Can I? Nod. On my weakly nodding sister, I continued to speak. Let's run from here. I didn't say it in the lighthearted, partly joking way that I used up until now. I said them because I really wanted to flee from here. Even if God watches, I don't care.
こんなことのために死んじゃうなんてバカらしいよ。
To die in a place like this, for such a reason, it's stupid. Even if my sister couldn't be saved, even this had all been done out of consideration for me. The life that I'd obtained from all that, at this point, its future had become
こ
worthless.
のままじゃお姉ちゃんの一生は何のためにあったのかわからないよ。だから逃げよう。
At this point, I don't even know what you spent your life on, sis. So let's run away, okay? Even at these words, my sister remained silently looking down. Eventually, she slowly shook her head and closed her eyes. No matter what I said to her after, she didn't face me. Sis, does this mean you've accepted your fate? With a silk cloth wrapped around her mouth, even on her deathbed, that duty, the sacrifice for atonement, was what she continued to fulfill. For her debt alone, we didn't even recall making to some god or whatever. She never opened her mouth or used her voice for me. Even now, I had never heard my sister's voice. And just maybe, it might all end before I ever hear it. A premonition that I didn't want to come to pass. For some reason, it felt like it would miss. Next month, the harsh winter came in full force. For the first time in a while, there was a night where the large moon showed its face. The cramped sleeping room that my sister and I alone used. We were sleeping there as always, when suddenly they came. With a sharp clack, the sliding doors opened forcefully. Beyond was the priest and the head priest, along with a number of footmen that I recognized.
こんな夜更けにどうされたのですか？
So late in the night. Is something happening? It was so sudden, I had no idea what was going on. For it to be so late at night, and how many people come in at one after another, it was honestly more scary than surprising.
宮司様、これは一体。
Head priest, what is... To prevent any accidents, we've come here to take precautions.
手違い。
Accidents? Before I could even ask what that was, the cloth was pressed to my mouth. Then, almost like a gag, it was firmly tightened. With this, she won't be able to speak. She might make a sound suddenly, after all. The priest muttered that while I was unable to understand what was happening. What then leapt at my eyes was... What? Sis? Before me was my sister with her mouth gagged even more tightly than mine. Moreover, pressed to her neck was the blade of a tanto, ready to tear into my sister's neck. There might be some time before she dies, but we want to make sure of the transfer, you see. Saying that, the head priest looked at the footman holding the tanto. It was then that I finally understood the situation. They were going to kill my sister. On top of that, from the instant that I would become the next sacrifice, they wanted to prevent the chance that I could use my voice. If it happened that suddenly, in a place with no one around, she were to die of her illness, there was the possibility that I would raise my voice in crying. They probably feared that. I believe you were called Rin. I'll at least say my thanks for being the sacrifice for 15 whole years. Rin, oh no! Just saying that, he glanced at the footman holding my sister in the tanto. Please stop, don't kill my sister! Even when I tried to use my voice, I couldn't form words. That's why I screamed in my heart. There was nothing else I could do. My body was held firmly, so I couldn't even run close to her. It was the only thing I could do. And my sister was looking at me. With the blade pressed to her wasted body, neither able to move nor use her voice, she pleaded with her eyes. Help me. Oh no! She said that, even if she hadn't voiced it, my eyes told me. Up until now, someone who served as a priestess risked her entire life to be the sacrifice for atonement. Believed in God, without question, sacrificing herself. The person whose endless smile never broke. For the first time she pleaded. For the first time, she beseeched that God for salvation. And at that time, I had a thought. If, right now, she weren't saved here, then there was no God. I know nothing about debts or loans, don't care about atonement or sacrifice. Anyone owed those things never existed to begin with. If it was something that refused to save her right now, it was not a God. And so, there was no God. That's what I realized. Now, do it. Calmly, succinctly, that was all the head priest said. Just as he finished saying those words, a sort of wet spraying sound rang out. It was like the sound of water, except it wasn't water, but blood. It was the sound of that spraying from her neck. The color wasn't red, but the same black as darkness. Sis! Unable to speak, I screamed in my heart. In front of me, as I was held firmly and unable to run to her side, my sister became soaked in strongly flowing blood. My sister was looking at me, a black stain spreading over her without any apparent resistance, trying to convey something to me. But the only part of her that wasn't bound, her eyes, she gazed at me, and then, like a thread holding her up was cut, she collapsed forward. And just that easily, she died. I didn't know what my sister was trying to tell me in the end, but it seemed that there wasn't a God. And so I lost my voice. I was stopped from forming words. In the end, I never once heard my sister's voice. The final time I used my voice was to the head priest when I said, "Accidents?" When thinking that those were the last words of my life, despite myself, I felt it was pathetic. And as the fourth sacrifice, I took up the remaining 200 plus years of atonement, to pay back a debt to something that didn't exist. My life also died right there. Early spring. After those events, a few months passed and the north wind finally started to soften. In that chilly early morning, I was continuing the daily task of morning cold water ablutions. Cough, splutter, cough. With my mouth closed, I coughed like I was choking. Unlike my sister, I always had a cloth wrapped around, forced around my mouth. The only time I could remove it was to eat, and then there was always a footman next to me watching. Apparently, unlike with my sister, I wasn't trusted. That was probably obvious since I had nothing I needed to protect. They seemed afraid that I might despair at everything and suddenly raise my voice. Should I just do that? They weren't omnipotent, and if I suddenly, in the middle of eating, raised my voice, they probably couldn't stop me. Again and again, I pushed back that impulse. One reason was because without a doubt, I would be killed. They'd place the duty of atonement above all else. For that task, they didn't even think of us sacrifices as human. I was sure that I would be subjected to unimaginably cruel reprisals before being killed. And one other reason was my sister. If I were to throw it all away, the past 100 years would have to be started from the beginning. If that happened, then all my sister's actions would become nothing. Even if it were just a stupid thing, I would lose sight of just what my sister lived her life for all these years. So this wasn't for the head priest, nor the shrine, nor myself, and certainly not for some god. It was for my sister that I was throwing away my own life, resolving to live as a sacrifice. I had yet to turn 11. It was a young, ignorant, powerless person's own kind of determination. Summer. The season where skate is loudly called and the heat returned. Today I also finished my daily duty and was lying down in my bedroom. Perhaps my determination to live on as a sacrifice was finally understood, since there wasn't anyone else at my side constantly watching over me. But knowing them, they'd probably not at ease with just this. From what I heard, they were bringing someone in from somewhere. Of course, a spare, mine. While I was still healthy right now, that didn't mean I would be forever. They certainly knew that well. Even if I weren't my sister, continuing to live this way made it obvious. For my age, I had become thinner. Looking at my own body, that's what I felt. That night, I quietly had my eyes closed and was about to fall into a light sleep. Did something make a sound? Focusing on my ears, I didn't hear things but people's voices. Even though it was late at night, there seemed to be sounds of shouting and screams. Sensing that something wasn't right, I got up. The voices were still far away, but without a doubt, they were coming from within the shrine. So I put my hand on the sliding door to take a look outside the bedroom. When, before I could open it myself, it slammed open. "Quick! Run! Quickly!" The first thing the familiar young footman said upon entering. However, contrary to how he usually appeared, his breathing was ragged and he was very agitated. He was also wearing bright red clothing. Just what had happened? Gesturing with my hands and whole body, I asked him. "Just go quickly, they're razing the place. Anyone found is being killed. No, they'd make sure to kill you." Saying that, the footman pointed to the rear gardens. Looking closer, I could see that red on him was his own blood. I saw that there were also various cuts on parts of his body and clothing. "It's over for this shrine." With those words, he finally fell face down onto the floor. Just what should I do? The faraway screams I heard just before were now very close. I don't know what's going on, but I have to get out of here. While looking at the man who apparently had died before me, that's what I thought. Ha. 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 I ran straight from the rear gardens into the mountains. I didn't turn around to look. I was so afraid I didn't dare turn around. Running as fast as I could, the cloth bound around my mouth to keep me from speaking added to my difficulty breathing, but I didn't move to remove it. That was because I had no idea what the situation was right now. Eventually, hiding myself along a small path in the forest, I slowly caught my breath. Then, fearfully, I looked back at the place I had run from. Burning? Is the shrine burning? Behind me, the area where the shrine stood was glowing bright red in the darkness. There was no reason to believe it was anything other than a fire. Then, what happened to all the other people? Or is it like the footman said, everyone was killed? There wasn't much need to think about it. Most likely it was true. While running through the rear garden, I remembered hearing a number of familiar voices changing into screams. The head priest, lower priests, the other priestesses, the many footmen that came from the court. I had heard that despite being a small shrine, it had a historical significance. Do such places get raised like this all of a sudden? No matter how much I thought, I couldn't find a reason. But there was a much bigger problem. What should I do now? Could it be that with the shrine gone, I've been released from the role of being the sacrifice for atonement? Or was it that so long as this world existed, I had a duty to continue it? I just didn't know. However, I understood that if I were found, I would be killed. I started moving the feet that had stopped on the forest path, deeper into the forest. I didn't know just how far a child's feet could continue running, but there was nothing I could do. Half a year later, late autumn. Deep on a mountain around when the red staining leaves on the tree were starting to drop and the weather was slowly changing to winter. Living here and hiding, a few months passed before I noticed. There were days pieced together with wild plants and fish from a stream. Of course, I had thought about going down into the village a number of times. Thought about it, but I would get scared and went unable to leave the mountain. There might be someone on watch. The people who had attacked the shrine might be simple robbers in their night. I think that was the most likely case. The people who would burn down a holy shrine might be someone with greater influence. If that were true, I couldn't be careless and get myself found. Normally, the footmen were people from the imperial court and had no connection with the shrine. But despite that, they were also killed, so I doubt they would let a priestess associated with the shrine go, even if it were a young child. But while I thought about that, there was also another reason. Actually, this one was even bigger. If I go to the village, what would happen to me? A failed priestess with no skills? Someone who was nothing more than a sacrifice? Did I have a way to live? With these doubts gathered together, I just couldn't find the courage to leave the mountain. And yet, even now I didn't use my voice, and every day I had cold water ablutions, continuing my duty of atonement. To be honest, not even I knew the reason why. Even though I didn't have a sister I could rely on now, and that head priest that I disliked wasn't here. And moreover, even if I spent my entire life continuing on, there wouldn't be anyone to come after. With even the shrine now gone, it was all meaningless. 2 months later, winter. Snow fell from the sky and stained the black mountains in white. Facing the oncoming of deep winter, I had a premonition that I was going to die soon. I haven't eaten anything in 3 days already. Moreover, with the snow covering the area, it didn't seem likely that there would be something edible around. The bountiful autumn mountain had changed, and in the winter the mountains became like a land where the living had died. But that would be fine. Dying wouldn't be bad. Since my sister's death and taking on her sacrifice for atonement, I had been the same as dead. Right now, there were only 2 things I regretted. The first was that I wasn't able to say my complaints to God, or whatever it was. The other was that I wanted to hear, just once, my sister's voice. That was it. But maybe that might be granted if I die. Imagining my sister's voice deep within my heart, it was very bright and cute voice. But with those gentle words in my ears, I quietly closed my eyes. While falling slowly to sleep, I wished I would just never wake up. The next time I wake up, I think I would hate being in this world. Interesting. So we have this story of a character who doesn't want, they don't necessarily not want to live, but they don't want to die either. They're kind of in this limbo state of hating life. And then we have the story of Rin, who is a character that is bearing this, like, atonement, right? And we don't know what happens to these 2 characters. So this is getting very interesting. I'm very excited about this. It's not failing to be very interesting. Alright, back to the rainy world. I can hear the sound of rain. I had no idea what time it was now, but for some reason I woke up. Which is to be expected if you think about it. To suddenly come to a place like this and not understand what was going on, I just didn't have the nerves to be able to sleep soundly. Ow. I slowly opened my eyes while getting up. Since I'd been sleeping directly on the stone floor, my back hurt a bit. I had heard it'd be pitch black, but you can somewhat see. Once your eyes adjusted, you could just barely make out what was around you. Of course, it was just a few meters in front of your eyes. Beyond that, the pitch blackness spread out wide. I guess it's like she said. If I were in a place far from here and it suddenly became dark, I might have been at a loss. And also, if there were no other place with a roof besides here, then it would mean no matter where you went, you would be continuously rained on. Thinking about that, my eyes drifted to the bench. Oh, you are awake too? What's wrong? Even for my question, there wasn't any real reply. In the dark, she was just quietly looking at me. No, she seemed to be glaring at me. Eventually, she opened her mouth.
あなた、どうして帰らないの?
Why don't you go back? Huh? Not just her voice and way of speaking, even her aura had clearly changed. You're Rin, right?
他に誰が?
Is there anyone else? She spat those words out without expression. For an instant, I thought she might be a different person, but that wasn't possible. No matter how you looked, she appeared exactly the same, and more than anything else, I'd heard that there wasn't anyone else around.
それよりも、こんなところにいても無駄よ。
More importantly, there's no point in staying in a place like this. No point? What do you mean?
言葉の通
I
り、
mean what I say, so hurry up
さっ
and
さと
return
元
to
の
your
世
home
界に
world.
帰りなさい。
Blandly declaring that, she pointed outside to the falling rain. Well, I was planning on going back eventually, but I had no intention of going back in the dark while it was raining. I was supposed to have thought 3 days worth of time. Well, if I start wanting to go back, I'll go back.
親や家族が心配するわよ。
Your parents, your family will worry. Unfortunately, there isn't anyone to worry about me.
じゃあ、私が困るからさっさと帰って。
Well then, it's bothering me, so hurry up and leave. It is? At those words, Rin gave a small nod. No, this wasn't Rin. They looked the same, but the inside, the personality was very different. If I had to give her a name, it would probably be Rin. Oh goodness, that's not going to be confusing. During the day when I said I could stay, she had been so happy. It was, in a way, the reaction of a different person. But this might be an opportunity. During the day, no matter what questions I asked, nothing would get settled. But with her now, I had a feeling I could get a clearer answer from her. Well, I can go back immediately, but in return, can you tell me about this place?
いいわよ。それで帰ってくれるならね。
Fine, if it'll make you leave, that is. Yeah, I get it. Sooner or later, it was inevitable that I was be going back. Then at least it wouldn't be a big delay if I heard her answer the questions I had since coming here. Well, it was probably meaningless to know these things, but they were still bothering me even so. Then first, just what is this world?
さあ、正確な答えは誰も知らないでしょうね。
Who knows? Probably no one knows the real answer. Then at least let me hear what you think it is. If nothing else, she's been here longer than I have. And from how she's spoken earlier, she's seen a number of people come here.
例えるならば、ここは反省室ね。
To speak figuratively, this is a timeout room. Timeout room? That was an unexpected answer. Who? When? For what? What should I be sorry for to begin with?
知らないわよ、そんなこと。
How would I know about that?
ただし、この世界の定員は1名よ。反省室なんだから。
However, this room has a population of 1 because it's a room for taking a timeout. A population of 1, then what about me? With me here right now, that makes 2.
まだわからないの。つまり、あなたは邪魔者だと言ってるのよ。
You still don't get it? I'm saying that you're getting in the way. Getting in the way? I can understand the concept of being put in timeout. I had hated reality that much, after all. But I didn't think I would be told I was getting in the way. Then, if I were not to go back, what happens? Just now you said that the limit is 1 person. And what would happen if I didn't go back? Would it forever be 2 people here?
いいえ。その時は強制的に返されるわ。
No. Then you'll be forcibly sent back. Forcibly? What does that mean?
これも言葉の通りよ。勝手に帰らされるわ。
Again, it means what I say. You'll just automatically be sent back.
あくまでも今ここに2人がいられるのはわずかな例外期間みたいなものよ。
Ultimately, there being 2 people here is something like a tiny exemption period. I see. There's that kind of rule in effect. Certainly, even in a place like this, there'd be a huge difference between spending it with someone and alone.
だからさっさと帰って。どうせ強制的に。
So hurry up and go back,
だけどね。
since you're gonna be forced back anyway. Muttering somewhat uncomfortably, Rin looked at me. Come to think of it, during the day she'd also said there was a time limit of 3 days up before going back. So essentially, if I didn't go back on my own, once that time is up, I'll be sent back. But I had no idea what I should be reflecting on. If spending time alone in a place like this were to be a punishment, then I can understand her way of saying it. Well, the reasoning fits, and I understand it. However, it was a bit hard to take that explanation as the full truth. Since coming here suddenly, too many things have happened for me to allow that. If anything, right now, after this discussion, still nothing is registering. It all somewhere still felt like things happening in a dream.
あなた知ってた？ 1000年前までこの地球は宇宙の中心だったのよ。
Did you know? 1,000 years ago, the Earth was the center of the universe. What? Suddenly, she started to talk about random
平
things.
らな海の果てに大きな滝が流れていると信じられていた。
They believed at the end of a flat ocean, a great waterfall flowed.
たった100年前まではウイルスや細菌すら目に見えない。
Just 100 years ago, they even thought of viruses and bacteria as the work of unseen demons. What are you trying to say?
こんな世界があることを知らなかっただけ。あなたも昨日まではね。
That it simply isn't common knowledge to anyone that this world exists, including you, up until yesterday. I knew what she wanted to say. Even if it surpassed the realm of comprehension, there were things that existed. There was no point in denying them. It might be that I should just accept it. Right now, I am here, in this place she calls a timeout room. But, you know, even if that were true, I still don't feel like going back.
どうせ強制的に返されてしまうのに。
Even if you'll wind up being forced back? Yeah, if that's the case, I can worry even less and stay here. If I didn't go back on my own, then I would be sent back. That made things easy. There was no worry about missing the chance to return. Plus, even though I still don't know much about living here, there was a chance that living in this world might be much better than the real world. I was that tired of that world. If that were the case, I'd want to be here forever. Hey, is there a way not to get sent back? Wait? I mean, is there a way to stay here forever?
ないわ。
There isn't. Flatly, that was all she replied with. I see. I thought that staying here forever also seemed good.
まあいいわ。どうせ3日ほどよ。
Well, fine. It'll just be 3 days after all.
それにみんなそう言うのよね。
And everyone says that in the beginning. With those words, she once again lay down on the bench. It seemed that no matter what I said to her, I wouldn't be getting any more replies. 2 days. It's morning already? Waking to the sound of rain, I cracked my eyes open. Apparently, at some point last night, I fell asleep.
おはようございます。
Good morning! Yeah, good morning. Before my eyes was a tearfully grinning girl. Already, the aura she had last night wasn't there, and I was on the edge of doubting whether they were the same person. Well, about that thing that happened last night.
何のことですか？
Yes? What are you asking about? No, see, last night...
ごめんなさい。やっぱり床に直接では寝づらかったですよね。
I'm sorry. It was hard to sleep directly on the floor, right?
じゃあ今日は私が下で寝ますね。
So today, I'll sleep on the bottom. The girl said that, seeming a little sorry. I didn't get the feeling that she was particularly pretending not to know or trying to trick me. It felt very normal and natural. So at night, she's different? No, physically speaking, they were definitely the same person. However, the inside, the personality, might be better considered a different person. If I had to give them names, the innocent child was Rin, while the nighttime one was Rin. We're gonna name her Captain.
それじゃあ行きましょうか。
Well, shall we go? Hey, go? I'm still not going back, you know.
いえ、そうじゃなくてこれですよ、これ。
No, not that. This here. This. Saying that, she pointed at the bench, and around it the number of familiar artifacts.
ほら昨日寝る前に話したじゃないですか。
Remember yesterday? I talked about it before we went to sleep. Now that you... I definitely asked questions about the bench and the bus stops. Why was it that everywhere else had only aged stonework, but this spot had modern plastic items?
じゃあすぐ近くですからついてきてくださいね。
Well, it's very close, so come with me, please. Hey, wait. Once again, as if she didn't hear me, Rin happily dashed outside. Unlike last night, she seemed restless, innocent, like whatever she was doing seemed fun. But as if she thought of something, she once again turned back.
うっかり忘れるところでした。よかったらこれ使ってください。
I was about to forget. If you'd like, please use this. Saying that, she handed me an umbrella, or apparently the remains of one. Are you saying to use it?
見た目は悪いですけど、ちょびっとは雨も防げますから。
Yes, it looks pretty bad, but it can protect from the rain just a little bit. But really, it clearly had a few panels broken, so you couldn't really count on it to stop the rain. And as far as I could see, it was the only one, meaning if I were to use it, she would get wet.
私は慣れちゃってますし、昨日はベンチ使わせてもらったから気にしないでください。
I'm used to it. Yesterday you let me use the bench, so please don't mind. With just that, she once again flew outside. Her figure splashing without an umbrella was simply cute. Really, a big difference compared to at night. There were many things I didn't know about her, but she might not be a bad child. Watching her happily splashing in the puddles with just one shoe, I had that thought. But this rain just keeps coming. It wasn't large drops like in a sudden evening shower, nor was it cold, freezing rain. If I had to describe it, it was like the misty rain that fell during the rainy season. And the remains of the umbrella I was lent before. As expected, it didn't feel right using it alone, so we used it together. Well, even if a single person were using it, it didn't look like it would do very much, sorry to say.
で、どうです？雨濡れないですよね。
So, how about it? You're not getting wet from the rain, right? I guess.
そうでしょう、そうでしょう。
Right? For some reason, Rin straightened proudly. Honestly, I didn't think it made much difference whether we used the umbrella or not, though when asked with such a happy smile, I couldn't do anything but nod. But really, coming here, it's been just rain the whole time. Hey, does the sky clear up sometimes?
いえ、ずっと雨ですよ。
No, it's always raining. Always?
少なくとも私が来てから。
At least since I've come here.
いえ、私が来るよりも前からこの雨は止んだことがないと思います。
No, since before I've come here. I don't think this rain has ever stopped. I see, an unending rain, eh? For some reason, it felt well suited to the place's mood. Last night, she'd even called this place a timeout room. I think I understand why. To be in a place like this and have rain falling constantly, anyone would become depressed. I didn't understand what it took to become placed here. But after a while, a person might want to go back to the real world. But then, when did you come here?
昔ですね。
Quite a long time ago. A long time ago? Exactly how long ago?
ごめんなさい。あまりよくわからないんです。
I'm sorry, I don't really know. When she said that, her expression appeared just a bit lonely. But, well, that's natural, I guess. Even if time in the real world was moving, here it was stopped. Being here, there wasn't a way to know the flow of time. While looking at my stopped wristwatch, I nodded. And I also thought about yesterday for an instant. That perhaps this child has been in this place since a long, long time ago. I recalled that question I had before. Well, she knew an elevator and other modern things were, so she couldn't possibly have been here that long.
そろそろ見えてきますよ。
You can see it soon. Saying that, she pointed. In that direction, mixed with the sound of rain, you could hear the sound of something like waves. An ocean? No, a river? In a world where worn flagstones stretched forever, there was suddenly a river before our eyes. However, for a river, it was so big that you couldn't see the far shore, nor its source or destination. You just couldn't see where it went off to. And there, if you look closely at the water's edge, you could see a number of familiar things washed ashore. Is that a TV, and next to it a vending machine? However, everything was broken. On top of that, they were all soaked in water, so you can only call them garbage. Besides which, there wasn't any electricity, nor were there outlets, so even if they weren't broken, they'd be useless. Looking at other things, you could see that half were already buried in sand.
こんな感じでたまに流れてくるんです。
Sometimes it floats here, like this. I see. That explains the mystery of the bench. There had been a mystery as to why modern things only used it back there, but apparently she brought things back from this place. And she said it floats here, but it seems more accurate to say that they washed up here. Well, even if they all become broken pieces of garbage, at least they're all modern things. They were all familiar things that I'd regularly seen up until just yesterday. Hey, is that... Before I processed what she said, she dashed over to the waves. Thinking that she may have found something important, I rushed over to see. Well, I'm so happy. It's been a long time since I could read what happens next. What's her name? What? Jump? At her feet, I saw a familiar collection of manga, and it was one that had just recently been sold, a relatively new issue. For one issue to come after another, it's super rare. Today, I'm gonna need to carry it back carefully, so I don't ruin it. With a bit of a serious face, the girl picked up the soaked jump. Things like that can come floating down. I couldn't help but be somewhat impressed. After that, we walked along the water's edge, looking to see if there was anything that stood out. From what the girl said, there wasn't all that much that washed up. And of course, there wasn't any way to tell what would arrive. Basically, most things didn't even retain their original shapes. On top of that, if you left something for a few days, it would drift off somewhere else. And so, when she finds something useful, she takes it back to that place. By the way, shoes seem rare. Yes, books come relatively often. But clothing items, or anything you put on your body, only comes rarely. All things considered, the imbalance is fascinating. Aww, with just one shoe, it's a little embarrassing. Later, we strolled along the water's edge before going back. Along the way, we found a Nissan catalog, and Rin was super happy about it. That part of her seemed to be the same as any other girl. Once again, we returned to that place. Oh, the serial stopped at some point. I looked over at her. She was holding the weekly manga we picked up earlier. What a shame. I was looking forward to the ending. Well, there's nothing you can do. It's not like one will come every week. From what she told me before, if you were lucky, they'd come one after another. But they otherwise might not come for a few months. And plus, it's really hard to hold on to the concept of time here. At the least, each day passed with a night and a day. But weeks, months, years, you needed to create a calendar and check it without fail every day. So probably the only way to judge large periods of time was to use things that flowed here. As for smaller time periods like hours, I just had no idea. There wasn't anything like a clock, and the sky didn't seem to change. I had a feeling it was around noon. Of course, that was just my gut feeling, and I couldn't tell anything else besides that. Is something wrong? No, I'm just wondering what time it is. Wait here a bit, I'll go take a look. Saying that, Rin hopped outside. And then, after she gazed at the sky for a while, it's maybe 2 in the afternoon? You can tell from looking at the sky? Yes, it might seem exactly the same, but there's actually just a tiny bit of difference. That reminds me that yesterday she said that night was coming. Well, it's still just an estimate. If anything, there's no way to check if that time is correct or not. Well, that's true. And thinking about it, I'd gone more than a day without eating, and I wasn't hungry at all. That made judging the passage of time even more difficult. That's right. Shall I give you a very nice thing? Nice thing? What's that? You'll see. Saying that, she started rummaging through the small cardboard box next to the bus stop towards the rear. Hey, I don't know what you're up to, but I don't need any drenched manga.
ですよ。
Oh, come on, it's nothing like that. After waiting a bit, she came back with a small tin.
サクマ式ドロップ。
Ta-da! Sakuma drops! Ooh, I haven't had those in ages. Heck, I didn't even know they still made these. I remember eating them all the time when I was
こ
small.
こって食べ物系が流れてくることは
Food
超レア
items
なんです。
drifting here are ultra rare.
たまに見つけても濡れてドロドロになってたりして。
And even when you occasionally find them, they're all soaked and slimy. Well, there's nothing you can do about that.
そんなわけでじっくり堪能してくださいよ。これを食べるのは何かの記念の時限定なんですから。
So you need to take your time and enjoy it, because we only eat this when there's something to celebrate. Saying that, she happily rattled the can. She probably was imitating how lotteries were drawn, though that smug face she was making was pretty amusing.
外れが出てもがっかりしないでくださいね。
Ah, and even if the bad one comes out, don't get upset, okay? I know, I know. Then she opened the tin and tilted it towards my palm. A single candy rolled out. It was, how do you say, expected, or even cliche, that white one. Of course it came out, that bad white one.
なんで一番いいのか。いいな。
Wow, I did the best one. How nice, how nice. Hey, wait a minute. White's always the bad one. Everyone knows that.
何言ってるんですか。
What are you saying?
発火最高じゃないですか。
White's the best one.
発火最高。
White's number one. I don't think you should say that. I don't get it. Well, I get that you like the white one. I looked around at the rain as it continued to fall. No, at the rain that would never end. While looking at the sky, the two of us put the candy in our mouths. In the end, I wound up treating my white with the grape she got. The grape flavor spreading in my mouth felt extra sweet. You know, it's a pretty strange feeling.
ここってお腹も全然減らないですからね。
Yes, because here you never get hungry. You don't have to eat, never get sick, don't age, and can't even die. At night, Captain had sarcastically said it was a timeout room, but depending on how you thought about it, you might be able to see it as heaven. This might just be pretty amazing. No, wonderful even. Wonderful?
素晴らしい。
Well, think about it. Out in the real world, everyone's working so hard to eat. And there's sickness, death, and many worries too, I'll bet.
そうかも。
Yes, that's true.
だけど私はちょびっと寂しい気もする。
But I think that it also feels a bit lonely. Lonely? Why?
そりゃひもじい思いは嫌だけど。
Well, I don't like to be hungry.
だからこそたまに美味しいものを食べた時は嬉しいのかなって。
But maybe exactly because of that, when you eat delicious food, you're happy. She was speaking somewhat gravely. Since she was still usually so bright and cheerful, that sight left a strong impression. Interesting. Alright, let's hear about the lady. Let's go back to the world of Rin. Help me. She said that. Even if she hadn't said it, her eyes told me. Up until now, someone who served as a priestess, who risked her entire life to be the sacrifice for atonement, believed in God. Without question. Sacrificing herself. A person whose endless smile never broke, pleaded for the first time. She beseeched that God for salvation. But my sister died, and in the end, her life ended simply without me hearing her voice. And my own life was also stained ash and gray. Apparently things like God's don't exist. That's right. I swore in my heart. There are no gods. Even if one did exist, I swear to never accept such thing as gods. If there were something that called itself a god and were to met out punishment upon me, then let them punish me as much as they please. All the punishment I get, put together with this unjust fate, my sister's regrets, my own regrets. Someday, I will turn them into a curse. Ooh. Mistress of the rainy world. I suddenly woke up. The sound of rain falling and the sensation of water hitting my face roused me. Where am I? The first thing I could hear was the sound of rain falling. Next, what jumped at my eyes was white everywhere. All I could see was the pure white sky and flagstones. Thanks to the rain, I couldn't see clearly, even a short distance away. But just before, the mountains had been buried in snow. Without thinking, I spun around, but everywhere I looked had the same scenery stretching on. Even if I strained my eyes, all I could see beyond the haze of the rain was the faint white horizon. I had no idea. At first I thought it was a dream, but it didn't seem that way. For a dream, the scene before my eyes, the feeling of the rain on my skin was just too vivid. Then was this the other world, the one after death? It was pretty far from what I thought it would be like, but most importantly, if this was the afterlife, it was strange I didn't see my sister. 33 years hadn't passed, so she shouldn't have become an ancestral spirit yet. Wait, not only was my sister missing, but so was everyone else. There weren't any signs of movement. I don't really understand, but I guess I'll try walking around. I started slowly walking. No matter how much I thought about it, it didn't seem like I'd arrive at an answer, and staying put wouldn't do anything. Being soaked by rain didn't make me feel cold, but having it constantly falling on me was tiring. And after a while, I don't really know how far I continued walking. But everything remained the same, and there wasn't any change in scenery. No matter where I walked, the flagstones continued. There wasn't anything that looked like buildings. And of course, there weren't any signs of people, nor signs of anything moving. Then I noticed something. Why am I not hungry? Before coming here, I hadn't eaten in 3 days and was starving, to the point where I was on the verge of death from cold and hunger. And yet, right now, I don't feel any hunger and my body doesn't feel weak. Just what is this place? The same question kept repeating in my mind. At the least, I didn't think it was the real world. The closest thing I could imagine was the afterlife, but it felt different from that too. Or is this, could it really? Suddenly I had a thought. What if I had brought in this place in order to complete repaying the debt? Of course, if you asked who was responsible, it could probably be that god or whatever. Besides of that, I couldn't think of any other reason. I see, if I think of it that way, it explains a number of things. As a priestess of a shrine, I was repaying a debt to God. On top of that, I was still continuing to do so. If that god or whatever were counting on that, then something like this happening wouldn't be too surprising. Saying that he'd been denied repayment and wanted me to repay the debt properly. And if I didn't live in the real world, then a different place would be prepared. If that was the case, then it all fit. However, at the same time, a different emotion boiled forth from within me. Anger. It'd be a problem if I were misunderstood. Right now, I wasn't continuing on with the sacrifice for God's sake, and obviously not for the shrine nor the head priest either. Yes, this was all for my sister. If there'd really been a god or whatever, then why didn't he save her then? If they were capable of making such miracles happen, it shouldn't have been difficult. I will not accept anything that does that as a god. If this was something that could benefit such a god, I had no intention of participating in it. The anger within me grew bigger and bigger. Soaked by the rain, standing all alone in an incomparably immense place, with flagstones stretching seemingly endlessly before me in an inexhaustible amount of falling rain. When he could bring about a miracle like this, and yet he still continues to demand that helpless people like us continue struggling to repay a debt? When that thought came to me, I took off the cloth wrapped around my mouth. It was almost unconscious. I'd been taking care not to make a sound all this time, but that wasn't necessary anymore. I looked up at the sky. Something was probably looking down upon me from above the rain clouds. There was about 200 years left, and I didn't care. Not about sacrifices, nor about atonement. For starters, I don't recall my sister and I creating a debt. I threw away the silk cloth that had been wrapped around my mouth. Then I took a deep breath. It's over! I shouted. You can start from the beginning again. Words for him looking down upon me from beyond the rain clouds. No, I wasn't even certain whether such beings really existed. These were words for myself. To make sure I wouldn't be drowned out by the rain, I yelled at the top of my lungs. There, I said it. Without noticing, I was out of breath. It had been about a year since I used my voice. Who would do anything for you? Serves you right. Choosing me to be a sacrifice, not saving my sister, that was where you failed. At some point, my shouting at the sky had changed into coughing. While being battered by the rain, it was a cough that even I myself could tell was tinged with self-mockery. For times like this, my low, uncute voice felt appropriate.
どうしたのだろう。
I wonder what's wrong. Afterwards, I hadn't left the area, but nothing happened.
ねえ、早く返しなさいよ、元の世界へ。もう用は済んだでしょ。私は逃げなんて嫌よ。
Hey, hurry up and return me back to my homeworld. You're done with me, right? I don't want to be a sacrifice. Once more, I shouted towards the sky. The rain just continued to fall, and there was still no reply. I spoke, in a big voice, too. The 333 years of atonement should have been broken. There were supposed to be 200 yet, but it doesn't matter now. At the least, there should be no more use for me. Essentially, both the reason I was brought here and the reason to lock me up here should have gone away.
ほら、早くしてよ。どうせ帰っても死ぬだけなんだから。
Hurry up already, since even if you send me back, I'm just going to die. Over and over again, I shouted up at the sky. There was no response. Nothing happened. There was simply silence and rain falling on my face.
もしかして彼の仕業ではない。
Could it be that this wasn't his doing? The thought tumbled from my lips, not an answer to anyone, just answering my own question. Then this had nothing to do with the atonement? But then what was this place?
さっきから何やってるの？あなた。
What have you been doing all this time? Turning around, there was an unfamiliar woman. She seemed like a young woman, and of course wasn't my sister. Long black hair and a pretty face, wearing a tattered kimono, she stood, apparently happy in the rain.
あなた、面白い人ね。初めて見たわ。空に向かって叫んでいる人は。
You're an interesting one. First time I've ever seen someone yelling at the sky.
じゃあ、こんなところで立ち話もなんだから、向こう行きましょう。
Well, standing around here talking isn't that great, so let's move over there. With that, the woman quickly started walking off. I had no idea what to say and wound up saying nothing.
で、
Hey,
ちょ
wait a moment.
ちょっと待ってください。
Please.
どうかした？
Is something the matter?
それよりもここは。
Before that, where is this place?
その辺の説明も長くなるからね。
Explaining that will be a bit long, you see.
何よりここじゃ雨に濡れるし、とりあえずついてきなさいよ。
Plus, we'd get soaked by the rain, so for now, come with me. As if she didn't hear me, she quickly went off, splashing in puddles as she walked. Who was this person? Could she be a messenger from the gods? She didn't really look like one, though. While thinking, I started to follow after the woman.
ほら、そこよ。あそこだったら雨に濡れないでしょ。
See, it's there. Over there you won't get wet, right? She pointed at a structure made of large stone pillars. Up till now, I had seen large buildings and shrines made of wood, but this was different from all those. At the least, it was something I've never seen before.
冷たかったわね。結構濡れちゃったわ。
That was cold, and I got pretty wet too. As she entered the structure, the woman started to brush the rain off her body. Looking around, there were just a few garden stones scattered about, and nothing else. It was fairly spacious, but this was a place with just a roof to avoid the rain. For someone who had been hiding deep in the mountains, it was a bit odd for me to say, but it was a pretty lonely place. Or did it mean there was no other place with a roof?
そうよ。屋根があるのはここだけ。だから贅沢なこと考えちゃダメよ。
Yes, this is the only place with a roof, so you shouldn't be picky. Eh? But I haven't even spoken out loud yet. She answered like she knew what I was thinking.
それくらいわかるわよ。顔を見ただけで何を考えているかなんて。
I can tell. Just by looking at your face, I can see what you're thinking. This person might really be a messenger from God. I didn't know her real purpose, but it was just too unnatural to think that a normal person would be in a place like this.
ねえ、ミコさん。
So, Miss Priestess? She directed her words at me.
何ですか。
What is it?
あなた、もしかしたら私のことを神の使いだと思ってる？
Could it be that you're thinking that I'm some messenger from God? I gave a small nod. If this place were a place prepared by God, I had been expecting some kind of reaction for my breaking the atonement earlier, and I had thought that I would be sent back to the real world. So this person was a messenger from God, and most likely had appeared before me bearing some kind of
で
task.
もま、本当は違うのよ。
But that's not the case, Miss Priestess.
違うとは
What do you mean?
言葉の通りよ。
Like I
別に
said,
私は神の使いじゃないし、普通の人間よ。
I'm not a messenger from God, just a normal human.
でもさっき私の考えを見透かしたのに。
But you could see what I was thinking earlier.
バカね。見透かしたんじゃなくて、経
Silly.
験則よ。
I'm not reading your thoughts, it's experience.
経験則。
Experience.
ええ。今まで何十人と同じ問答をやってきたと思ってるの？
Yes. Just how many tens of people do you think I've done these answers for?
最初みんな似たようなこと言うから覚えちゃっただけよ。
In the beginning, everyone says the same thing, so I've just memorized the answers. If those words were true, then she was a normal person, and that would mean she had nothing to do with gods, the shrine that raised me, or the atonement, or the sacrifice. Then, just what was this place? I became even more
教
confused.
えてあげるわ。知ってる限りだけど。
I'll tell you as much as I know about this place. Another answer like she had seen again through, Another answer like she had again seen through me. Is this something you can get from experience? Or was she really hiding that she was a messenger from God? I still couldn't tell. She went through everything once with me. According to her, it seemed that this wasn't the real world, and yet it also wasn't the afterlife. Basically, it wasn't the land of the dead, nor the land of eternal youth. She said that if she had to guess, it was between the real world and the afterlife, a place like a ghost world.
まあ、巫女にもわかるように説明すると、ここは時の止まった場所ね。
Well, to explain it in a way that a priestess can understand, this is a place where time has stopped.
時が。
Time has stopped?
そうよ。だからここでは飢えることもないし、年を取ることも、病気になることもないわ。
That's right. So here you don't starve, get old, or get sick.
じゃあ、死ぬことも。
Then you can't even die?
もちろん。
Of course. Her answer was brief.
ねえお姉さん、一つ質問してもいい？
Say, miss, can I ask one question?
別に構わないけど、先に答えてあげるわ。どうせ聞かなくてもわかるから。
I don't mind, but I'll answer it before you ask, since I know what you're gonna ask anyway. Saying that, she took a small breath and kept
ま
speaking.
ず、何の目的でここがあるのかは誰も知らない。
First, no one knows why this place exists.
誰が、いつ、ここを作ったのかも知らない。
Who created this place and when? No one knows.
神様じゃないの。
It's not the gods.
神
The
様？
gods.
あ
You
な
say
た
some interesting
面白いこと言うわ
things.
ね。どうして？これは人になせる技じゃないわ。
Why? This isn't something that can be done by men. Saying that, I pointed at the endlessly continuing flagstones fogged by
悪い
rain.
けど巫女と違って、そんなものを信じる気にはなれないわ。
Sorry, but unlike you, priestess, I can't bring myself to believe in that
私
stuff.
は一度も
I haven't
その
once seen
姿
a
を見
god
たこ
nor
とも
heard their voices. That was the same for me. It was just that I haven't found a different answer that was satisfying.
とにかく今日はもう寝ましょう。巫女も出歩かない方がいいわよ。
In any case, let's sleep for today. Priestess, you shouldn't walk around. Once she said that, the young woman lay down where she was. Paying no heed to the hardstone floor, she stretched out her arms and legs in a big spread eagle position.
でもまだこんなに明るいのに。
But it's still so bright out.
いいえ、夜が来るわ。すぐに
No.
暗くなるわよ。
Night is coming. It will get dark soon. As she spoke, the white rainy sky changed to deep gray. And in moments, the area was cloaked in darkness.
そんなわけで続きは明日にしましょう。おやすみ。
So, like I said, let's continue tomorrow. Good night. Without anything to do, I stretched out my body next to her. Part of my back touching the stone floor was a bit chilly. Before I knew it, I had come to this mysterious place. I broke the atonement out of anger and was now sleeping next to some mysterious stranger. Could this all be a dream? When I wake up next, I might be shivering in the snowy mountains. Or this was not a dream, and this person really was a messenger from God, and had come to me to admonish me about the role of sacrifice for atonement. The scattered thoughts kept spinning around in my head as I fell asleep at some point. The next day, waking up with the sound of rain, I slowly opened my eyes.
もう朝。
It's morning. Apparently I'd fallen asleep sometime last night. Good morning, priestess. Did you sleep well? Yes. I answered while half asleep and rubbing my eyes. It's a bit sudden, but I'll explain things, so come with me. Please, wait a moment. The young woman flew out ahead of me. I didn't really understand, but I rushed to follow her. Outside, the rain was still falling. Small drops formed in that pure white sky struck my body. Under that sky, splashing sounds came from the wet ground. I'll explain things, just saying that the woman walked on without paying heed to the rain. Even for me, it wasn't cold or anything, it just simply soaked me. Eventually, your feet finally stopped. Supposed to be around... Oh, there it is. As I looked to where she indicated, I noticed a hole in the flagstones. It was big enough that a single person might pass through, and for some reason the hole was completely black and nothing could be seen on the other side. Priestess, I'm just guessing. But were you in the mountains or plains? Either way, in a natural cave? How did you... That was exactly it. At the time, while freezing from the cold of the snowy mountain, I had been shivering in a small cave. I had thought that since you're a priestess, it'd be a sliding door or maybe a torii gate. Miss, what does that mean? It's fine. It's not a complicated thing. Apparently, whenever you come to this world, it was through some sort of entrance. For most people, it's a simple hole, or sliding door, or castle gates, but for some, there were house doors or even fences. But the entrance the person enters from remains. I wonder what meaning that held. Don't rush. From here on is the important part. Essentially, the entrance also serves as the exit. Exit? Why, to the real world, of course. And by the way, if you go back, you'd never be able to return here. That was a surprise. Then for what purpose was I brought here? I still didn't know the reason why. But I certainly didn't think that a way back would be prepared like this. Unconsciously, I looked up at the sky. It was because I couldn't organize the thoughts within me. Yesterday, I had quickly broken the atonement upon arriving here. If dealing with that atonement had been the reason I had been brought to this place, then I was already useless. And so he demanded that I quickly return to the real world. At that time, I had thought I'd been ignored. I even thought that I'd been brought here for an unrelated reason. But now I was told that I could return to the real world. So, hurry up and go back. I'm sure that the shrine is making a big fuss about how the priestess has disappeared. Oh, could it be that you don't want to go back? Yeah. I gave an honest answer. No matter who she was, even if she was a messenger from God, it didn't matter. If I were asked whether I wanted to return to the real world, there was no answer other than no. Priestess here has been through some things too, I see. Even though she's just a kid. Well, coming here in a hole in the ground, either you've been run out of the shrine or the shrine's been burned to the ground and you have no place to go. The woman spoke plainly. It was a bit frustrating, but there's nothing wrong with her reasoning. Well, my sister, really I was... don't say anymore. Sooner or later, you're going to wind up going back after all. I'll go back? That's right. Sadly, you aren't able to stay here. Someone like Priestess, or any human besides myself. She was emphasizing the besides herself part. Then, if I didn't go back? That's impossible. You'll be sent back automatically after a few days. Then I'd be sent back to the snowy depths of the mountains. A place where if I were sent back, I'd just starve or freeze to death.
それで、ミコ、あなたは帰るの？
So, priestess, are you going back or not?
それは。
That's... I couldn't help but fall silent. Knowing that I died, there was a feeling I didn't want to return. And also there was another worry.
まあ、別にいいわ。すぐに決めなくても。
Well, it's fine if you don't answer right now.
3日ほど時間あるから、ゆっくり考えなさい。
There's 3 days of time, so think about it slowly. Saying that, the woman started to go back. She started to head to the place at the roof. Like before, she had a light step and was hopping over the puddles along the way. Just what was this person? I had thought that for the umpteenth time. This place itself was mysterious, but the people in it were just as mysterious. She apparently wasn't. A messenger from God. That said, she didn't seem to be a normal human.
ああ、それとミコ、一つお願いがあるんだけど。
Priestess, I've got one more request.
え？あ、はい。
What is it?
あなた、私をお姉さんと呼ぶのは
Could you
やめ
stop
てくれ
calling
る？
me miss?
でも、じゃあどう呼べば？
But then what should I call you?
そう返されるとは思わなかったわ。
I didn't expect you to reply that way. Putting her hand to her face, she seemed to think about it a bit. Come to think of it, she was always calling me priestess. That was a pretty selfish thing to say.
そうね。だったら、イラツメとでも呼ぶ？
Then how about calling me lady?
イラツメって、もしかして宮のお方なんですか？
Eh? Lady? Are you someone from the court?
別に何でもいいじゃないの。あなただって正式な巫女とは思えないわよ。
Isn't it fine either way? You honestly don't seem like a proper priestess either.
だからこれでおあいこでしょ。
So, now we're even. Saying that, she gave a bright smile. Behaving so cheerfully, even in soaked tattered clothes, she somehow reminded me of my sister.
お姉さんって一体何者なの？
Hey, lady, just what are you?
私が気になるの？
You're curious about me?
やっぱり普通の人とは思えない。
Yes, I just can't believe you're a normal person.
確かに普通の人間ではないわね。
Well, you're right that I'm not a normal person.
例えるならば、
I
雨の
guess.
世界の主かしら。
Figuratively speaking, I'm the mistress of the rainy world.
主？それって巫女とか？
Mistress? Like an emperor or king?
ただし一人っきりの世界の主だけどね。
However, the mistress of a world of only one. Saying that, the woman who called herself lady made a face that was just slightly lonely. I still don't really understand this person, but I can't imagine that she's interacting with me at Evillan 10. And even if she were something that wasn't human, I have the feeling she wasn't an agent of those god things. Interesting. Timeout room and water marginal. So I think we're about like maybe a third to halfway through this game. So that's where I'm going to end it for today. We went a little over time today, but that's okay. So thanks for joining me today, guys, for Rain Marginal, Ame No Marginal. I'm really enjoying this story. It's very interesting. There's a lot going on. We have this character of this guy who doesn't want to live life anymore. He has come to this point of where he doesn't really want to live, but he doesn't want to die either. He's kind of at this point where he just hates life, right? Which is a point that Rin got to in her side of the story. So I think this world has something to do with coming to a point of hating life and not wanting to live anymore. I'm just saying that off the cuff. I don't know anything about this game or any of the story, so we'll find out more next time. So thanks for joining me today, guys. Please join me on Sunday. We'll be reading Homestuck. It's very fun. We have a lot of fun with it. Gob Gob and I read Homestuck on Sundays, so come join us for that. It's very fun. Join me on Tuesday. We're playing Great God Grove. It's very fun. It is a kind of an adventure game where you take quotes from other people and use them to solve puzzles. So it's very interesting. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So hopefully you'll join me on Tuesday for that. Join me on Thursday. We're playing Deponia. I don't know if we're doing Deponia this upcoming week. I'm not sure yet. Keep an eye out on the Twitch page for notifications on if I go live on Thursday. But otherwise, we'll be doing Deponia on Thursday, so join me for that. It's very fun. We just started, so there's lots to do. It's going to be a long series, so hopefully you guys enjoy that. And then join me next week on Friday for more Rain Marginal. And yeah. Oh, and join us on Wednesday. We will be reading Jailbreak, I believe, which is another title by Andrew Hussey. So, we started reading Problem Sleuth. We got to a point where we have to read Jailbreak now. So we're going to go read Jailbreak, and then we're going to come back to Problem Sleuth. So if you missed out on the first few episodes of Problem Sleuth, it's starting to come out on the VODs channel. So I would look for that on Saturdays. And yeah, come join us for that. It's going to be really fun. Anyways, I will see you guys on Sunday. Hopefully you will join us for Homestuck. And yeah, I will see you guys then. Anyways, bye guys. Have a great one. Sweet dreams. Bye.